Now, my next episode is about decadence, American decadence or Western decadence. Again, this is a summary of published thoughts. Now, this image, which shows the Virgin Mary and the Eve, the original Eve. This is a painting image symbolically illustrates the first Eve and the new Eve, the Blessed Virgin Mary. The first Eve is giving humanity fruits of death from the tree of life and death. She's on the right side. The Blessed Virgin Mother is giving humanity the bread of life on the left side from the same tree. But this is the tree of the cross of Jesus Christ. I thought that was a beautiful painting made by I don't know who, hundreds of years ago. It says in one image what it's all about. Our secular existence and our spiritual existence. So let's discuss what is culture. Culture is not simply about traditions, language, art, music, science, literature, and religion. It's all of these things and much more. When we speak of culture, some people today, they say hip-hop culture. That's not culture. That's a small, tiny part of culture. Or they talk about some other unique, special thing like, I don't know, other kinds of crazy art and culture. So, culture is what society considers good and honorable. Now, America is made up of all kinds of cultures: Hispanic, Asian, black, white, although nobody's really white. I'm not white. I'm kind of tannish. And many, many other people immigrated to America from Europe and Asia. So within the Hispanic culture, for example, you have the arts, music, language, food, you have sciences, you have faith, and you have Spanish, Hispanic traditions. Likewise for Asians and blacks. So we are experiencing culture crisis. And our cultures, in my view, should not be diluted in order to assimilate. Value the culture. Value the traditions that your parents and grandparents had. But at the same time, assimilate into the American culture. So certain worldviews and philosophies and ideologies have affected American society. Bad ideologies and philosophies have had lethal consequences in the 20th century. We know about them. They include fascism, Nazism, communism. In the 21st century, bad ideas include atheistic trends, communism, socialism, Black Lives Matter as a philosophy or ideology, and radical Islam. Radical Islam. How do we arrive at this radical transformation of American society? What were some of the forces? Why didn't we perceive these irrational events earlier and change them before they materialized? The answer is, when you're in the eye of the storm, you cannot see the pending disaster. What do I mean by the decadence of American society? Disintegration of the essential paternal-maternal family unit. Insufficient religious education of the youth and many adults on our day. Radical fundamentalism that impacts the Bible. you got some of these pounding extremists who distort the meaning of the Bible. Spreading of materialism, secularism, atheism, the opioid epidemic, which is another kind of pandemic. Sexual permissiveness, especially among our youth, and abortion on demand, and euthanasia. These are all the decadent elements of American society, and I might add, European society as well. I spent some years there. I thought it would be better in Europe, and it was worse, so I came back to America. So we can't, in searching for the truth, we can't understand others without truth. We can't correct injustices without truth. We can't be saved without the truth. We can't love Christ without the truth of what he did for humanity and to understand his gospels. Our 21st century youth are clearly not prepared for future trials and the onslaught of evil forces, primarily because of their inadequate public education system and deficient Christian teaching in particular. The public schools are terrible. I know because my wife taught there for 45 years. And she also taught in some private schools. The contrast is fantastic. At least amazing difference. Where will our children learn about morality if not in their home and church? Who will be their future role models? What will inspire them? Whom will they emulate as their future leaders? There's a very close connection between wisdom and goodness. Right and wrong are no secret to anyone, until we begin to deny they exist. All ideas about human virtues, of tolerance, charity, and the dignity of the human being, regardless of gender, regardless of ability, race, or class, or status, originated in the Bible. Is it not crucial that these virtues be encouraged in the future? In times of crisis like the pandemic, people cry for God. There are no atheists in foxholes. Let's talk about social justice. What is it? What is social justice? Some say, as Biden and the left Dems today, say that it's equitable distribution of wealth. I ask you, is it equitable and reasonable to force those who earn their money by their intelligence, by their hard work, by taking risks, by investing in the future, to redistribute part of their earnings to those who never developed their own brain power, never took any risks, and never worked or worked very little? That is the definition of socialism. I ask you, how has socialism worked so far in these socialistic countries like Venezuela, Cuba, and especially North Korea? So they're socialist communist. We all have freedom and rights under the American Constitution. That includes liberty, equal justice, and opportunity. But the Constitution does not guarantee us economic success. It does not guarantee us happiness. That depends on each individual's education, their ingenuity, their skills, risk-taking, fortitude, and determination. Others believe that social justice is about breaking the glass barriers for economic mobility. that women and minorities should earn exactly as much as men and majorities with the same skill level and working hours. Sounds good. That's a valid point. It's only valid if their education, their skill level, the time and effort is exactly comparable, which is difficult to measure and rarely is exactly equal. Social justice should be about having equal opportunity to obtain a good education and develop a set of skills that makes one more marketable in our competitive American society. Tulsi Gabbard, former Democratic representative from Hawaii. You know, she ran for president. She expressed concern that a proposed measure to combat domestic terrorism could be used to undermine our civil liberties. She said, and I quote, "It is so dangerous. This is an issue that all Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians should be extremely concerned about." Quote again, "When you have people like former CIA Director John Brennan, who was an ass in my opinion, openly talking about how he's spoken with or heard from appointees and nominees in the Biden administration who are already starting to look across our country for these types of movements similar to insurgencies they've seen overseas," he says, she's talking about John Brennan, former CIA director, he says, "They make up this unholy alliance of religious extremists, racists, bigots." He lists a few others, and at the end, even libertarians. The counterforce to this extremism from the left and people like John Brennan will be popularism. Popularism, where millions, hundreds of millions of middle-class groups band together against the elites, as is now happening in Europe, to vote for more conservative leaders. This is the end of my episode. Next, I want to talk about culture again in more detail.